welcome. Thank you for being part of today's nonprofit resource hub webinar. My name is Matt Thompson of Morgan Stanley, and I'm a proud associate member of the Nonprofit Resource Hub, or NRH for short, because it does sound like a mouthful. I'm going to share the slides and work through this stuff. So if anyone needs anything, by all means, just type a question in the chat. The first question is, who is the Nonprofit Resource Hub? NRH is a trade association whose mission is to serve, to be a resource, to educate, and to connect its members to the nonprofit community. At the same time, NRH serves the nonprofit sector as a bridge connecting nonprofit organizations to each other, as well as other helpful resources. That's what part of today's event is, and we're doing here today. What we do for nonprofits, we provide nonprofits with resources to help their organizations grow and thrive. We share a directory of our associate members, which I'm one. These are vetted, trusted providers and advisors who deliver quality products and services and education to the sector. NRH hosts networking sessions and events to foster opportunities for collaboration, both with other nonprofit organizations and with experts serving the sector. The nonprofit partners, we encourage each of our nonprofits joining us for today's webinar to join the Nonprofit Resource Hub as a member. By design, there is no cost for nonprofits to join as a partner, and you just go onto the website and sign yourself up. Please feel free to go to the website and learn all about the benefits that we do have. And there's the web page that everyone should see. Thank you to our board, Sereni Associates, Sir Tillman Ballin, Nonprofit Sector Strategies, Triumph Business Consulting, and the Vanguard Insurance Agency. The associate members, there's a lot here, so I'm just going to leave it up for a second and let people see. And without any further ado, we are very pleased to introduce today's speakers, Ed Probst and Tommy DiMisa from the Vanguard Insurance Agency. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for that intro. And welcome, everyone. We're happy to be here with you all today and glad that you can join us for another webinar for the Nonprofit Resource Hub. My name is Ed Probst, and I am the founding partner at the Vanguard Insurance Agency. We are a 22-year-old employee benefits consulting firm that's been working with nonprofit employers for the duration of that time. Today's presentation is titled Innovative Strategies for Open Enrollment and Benefits Communication. And today what we're going to try and do is just give you a lens from the perspective of our employers, the ones we've represented and talked to over the years, but just as important, the employees. Over the past over two decades, we've met with literally thousands of employees, and most of them on a one-on-one basis. So we'll try to infuse that into the presentation today and give you a good glimpse of what we're hearing and what we've been seeing over those years and what's changing today. I want to introduce my colleague with us today, Tommy DiMisa, affectionately known as Tommy D to most of you. Tommy began with our firm over 10 years ago and has been a partner for the last 4 years. He's been working with nonprofit employers for over 15 years in various capacities. Tommy's become a seasoned pro in the employee benefits field and has unique expertise in also payroll, PEO strategies, and things of that nature. So I think he brings a very, very well-diverse outlook on the employee benefits sector. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy, and he'll get us started for today's meeting.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks for that great introduction. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's well. Good afternoon. As Ed mentions, I do have a long track record in payroll consulting and benefits consulting, as well as professional employer organizations. So some of what we may touch upon today may be around that HR arena as well. I'm going to start sharing my slides right now. And as most meetings, I'm going to ask you, Ed, can you see my slides? And the thumbs up, the obligatory thumbs up, everybody. So really our program today is called Innovative Strategies for Open Enrollment and Benefits Communications. And really, as Ed mentions, we've dealt with thousands of employees, but that's really hundreds of employer groups over the years. And we're really going to share what we feel is insightful from the experience we've had and the feedback we've received with our clients about the process of benefits enrollment. So you'll see this first slide here, and maybe you know, if we were in a room where I could see all your faces, this might be the one where you sort of snicker, or you think, wow, this is, I know that feeling. You know, we look at open enrollment, certainly as open enrollment is an annual event when we're talking about major benefits, core benefits, and your ancillary benefits as well. But there's open enrollments that happen throughout the year. For instance, when a new hire becomes benefit eligible, that creates an enrollment situation that HR or the HR department or management needs to deal with. Also, when employees are going through any sort of qualifying life event that creates the need for enrollment for those employees. This again creates that sort of challenge. So what we're going to try to show you today is certainly set it up and so you get an understanding. And like I say, maybe you've seen yourself with your head on your hands like that as well, thinking about the challenges you have to deal with from an HR perspective. But it is and can be burdensome, but we think we have some strategies and some ideas and innovations that might be ways that you can look at this process differently and perhaps make it more manageable for yourselves and your team as it goes. Here's some of the things that unfortunately are some of the characteristics that you know, that open enrollment presents to an HR team. It is a stressful time. It can be a stressful time, but if you put things in order, you know, you can probably get through that you know, much more seamlessly. A lot of paper. We still see a lot of organizations using paper, you know, to do their open enrollments, and then there's the problem of actually communicating with people. And you know, not to make a joke there, communicating with people can be challenging in general, but specifically when you're talking about benefits, which, as you'll see in part of our presentation, benefits are personal, and you have to understand that when you're talking to folks. Management of the whole process can be difficult, and really, do your employees understand what they're in for, and what opportunities really are there for them. So we're going to look at things how historically and traditionally this process has been somewhat reactive. We have some ways to show you where it can be active, or even, as we like to say, better than that, proactive. And then just some other tips there that employee participation will increase with different strategies. So it can be better for the group, it can be better for the employees. And one of the things we hear a lot is about waivers. Where are my waivers? Are they in the payroll system? Are they in my benefits administration system? So there's a lot there. We know this. A lot of folks on this meeting and that will be looking at this video are HR professionals. So, you know, there's the strategic side of HR, there's the tactical side of HR. We know HR professionals wear a lot of hats, and they're certainly not just focused on benefits. So we'll talk a bit about streamlining this benefits process for them, but you see on the screen some of those things. We sort of broke this down into 4 different categories as far as what we see for the open enrollment process, 4 distinct categories. So the development of an effective communication plan, which we'll be going into, things like the timelines of events, how are you going to get the word out to your employees, notification wise, how can I get my employees to just be there at the meeting? Then the education side of things, which you'll hear about from Ed in a couple moments, but we're really big on education. I mean, you know, way before my time with the firm, Vanguard's always been high on the education side of things, and one-on-one education is really how we do this. In fact, our motto is educating employers 1 employee at a time, and we truly mean that, and we give that opportunity to the employees. So you know, that's what we see with our groups. But then we break it down into leveraging technology, which a lot of HR departments are reviewing their options as far as this goes, and we'll give you some insight there today as well. And then that administrative responsibility of the HR team to communicate the benefits management as that goes. I'm going to pass it over to Ed for a second, because we see that there's, as I say, there's these 3 different ways or 3 different types of an open enrollment. So it's a different type of experience, but it's also a different type of presentation towards the employees as well. So Ed, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tom. And before I do, I just want to mention, Matt may have mentioned this earlier, but if you do have questions along the way, feel free to type them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat. We'll do an official Q&A at the end, but feel free to make this as engaging as you'd like it to be. So with that, I just want to spend a moment defining the types of open enrollment that we see. And I would say by no means that what you see on the screen is this official language. Has this been determined as the way open enrollments are defined, but it's how we see them. and how we define the different types of open enrollment. And, I like to look at this, as you look at this slide, I'd like you to look at it as from the top down, passive being the past or the way things may still be done, but in past ways. The present would be a more active, and proactive would be the future. So let's talk about a passive type of open enrollment meeting. A passive type of open enrollment meeting is going to be an enrollment meeting that's voluntary engagement, meaning that you're engaging with your employees, but you're leaving it optional for them to participate, for them to pick up the information or the education materials, or to even ask questions during that time period. And I think we can all attest that, from our perspective, there's many years where we've been in conference room and nobody showed up to the meetings because it was a voluntary engagement. It always begs the question, how are the employees actually understanding their benefits? And over the years, as benefits have gotten more complex, that engagement with the employee, we believe, has become much more vital. And then we move on to what we call more of an active engagement, which is certainly the way more employers are starting to do this today, and certainly the way we advise our employer groups, is to have an open enrollment where you're encouraging your employees to participate. You may be encouraging them, maybe following up with them more on actually participating in the education meetings, or as far as having one-on-one sessions with advisors that they can voluntarily sign up for. We see a lot of that now, where we can provide survey links, and employers encourage their employees to sign up through survey links to get a one-on-one education about their benefits. And then there's a proactive direct engagement. I think as we go through this presentation, you'll see at the end that will bring this all together of what we're striving for, and what employers, and more importantly, employees, are looking for in their open enrollment scenarios as they learn about their benefits. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. Tom, yep, thanks. So let's talk about what a passive open enrollment might look like. Well, passive open enrollment might, when it's announced to employees, might be a single announcement. It might be somewhere. We've seen scenarios where nobody knew about the open enrollment, and they were telling the managers or employees, go get so-and-so in this department, or go get that person, the benefits there. And usually that's targeted towards people that are already on benefits, which would leave out the people that not on benefits that might need it, or might need benefits other than the core benefits that are being offered that would be viable for them. Education meetings are typically not required during this time. And as I said, a lot of times we'll say we'll hear the broker's going to be here on a certain date to educate you on your benefits. If you'd like to meet with them, show up during these times, but it's not certainly not mandatory. Broker and carrier representatives are typically on site afterwards to answer questions. But as you've probably all witnessed before, benefits can be pretty complex. And to expect an employee to go through a meeting one time, meet with a carrier rep afterwards, and answer questions, and actually retain that for their own personal needs is very difficult for them to retain that information long term. Typically, materials and election forms are left on site, and without being too facetious, a lot of times they end up in the circular file. And we'll find that we come back a year later, and the employee benefit materials that we've left in the conference room for the year before are still in the same box and still sealed. So not a very effective way to get the information out to the employees. Additional questions then tend to be answered by the HR staff. So leaving more on the HR staff. So they've seen that they may or may not have showed up for that education meeting. So they really don't even know if there's another resource for them to answer questions. And so that falls on the HR department, which can be burdensome. And not only can be burdensome, it can be something they don't really want to be involved with, which is learning more about personal situations of employees and advising them on what their benefit needs or should be for their families. And then, of course, paper elections are then always collected by the HR department, and just managing through paper, whether it be waiver forms or enrollments, and then having to put that in their own type of spreadsheets to pre-populate to get to carriers, that alone could be very burdensome for any employer. So what's an important part of the first part anyway of devising a open enrollment strategy, and that's developing an effective communication plan. So an effective communication plan, what we're really going to talk to you about, what we've seen employees like, right? What are they asking for? How is the most effective way to get them to participate in open enrollment? And so you want to make sure that it's easy for employees to participate. And the employers that we've watched that have made it easier for their employees to participate in the meetings by varying the times according to shift or work schedules, by hosting virtual meetings where they can view them at varying times and different, especially if employers are in different time zones and things of that nature. Videoing these meetings so employees can actually have availability or access to watch these are on their own time is critical and can really lead to more proper education. I think you want to highlight the positives. You know, a lot of times when we're working with HR, as Tommy said before, or employers, it can be a stressful time. And if these strategies are not refined and brought up to date year over year and they're handled the same exact way over year, it can become more stressful for an HR department or an employer of a firm that has HR teams that are not handling just HR. They might be handling a lot of different types of services for the employer. So you want to highlight the positives. We definitely, you know, we've, all kidding aside, we've seen employers that have communicated to their employees, hey, this is the time again, this is the time this year where your rates are going up again. And because there is so much tied to health insurance during these open enrollments typically, and as we all know, health insurance has risen over the years at a pretty steady pace. It's given a negative connotation to open enrollment. So I think it's important that you highlight the positives, highlight the employers that we see that maybe put out a what's new or some kind of communication that shows, hey, here's the benefits that are going to be offered and talked about during open enrollment. And here's the positives of those benefits that can help you and your family, will go a long way for an active participation. You want to encourage participation. You know, we have employers that do not make these voluntary, and maybe they have situations where they have sign-up sheets at enrollments to make sure that employees are participating, and if they're not, they're signing off that they don't want to participate and they waive their benefits. But also there is, you know, that by not making them voluntary, employees are going to show up more. They might incorporate these into their general meetings. So we have employers that have a weekly meeting on a Wednesday. And when we talked to them about the most effective way to have your employees join and learn, they say, you should be part of our 10:30 meeting on every Wednesday. And you can have the first 45 minutes of that meeting to communicate to the employees. Why do we want to do that? Because they have to show up to that meeting. And so we get that education in that format to the employees more effectively. You also do want to encourage and illustrate the benefits of attending those meetings and being and the education. You know, what are they going to get out of it? How is it going to help their family, whether that be products that can help them reduce cost, more education, or voluntary products that weren't available before. Make sure they understand that. And you want to make it fun. Sometimes, you know, we have employers that will create raffles and giveaways and participate with the carriers that represents the products that we're providing. And they'll have raffles and giveaways and fun things that we can create more of an initiative. So let's talk about a passive communication plan. A passive communication plan, again, encourages voluntary participation. We're here if you want to talk to us. It may spread the word through word of mouth or payroll stuffers, posters in common areas, or maybe an email or two that encourages, again, somebody's here to help you if you want that help. Let's talk about a more active communication plan and what we've seen. So an active communication plan would have a targeted notification service. So that would be multiple notices and different formats. Maybe you're giving them the common area posters, but you're also notifying them multiple times by emails. You're requiring read receipts, Perhaps you even bring in a text campaign if you have mobile phones for employees. You've now changed your enrollment to a mandatory participation as part of your regular meetings, and have sign-in requirements, and you have convenient access. You're doing varying meeting times, remote video conferences, and the employer is critical in the follow-up to make sure in an active communication plan that the employees know and are tracked who scheduled sessions with counselors, and also who was involved with waiving their coverages. So let's talk about proactive communication plan. It's something that we've infused into our business and a lot of our employers were asking for, and we've been providing. A proactive communication plan would include pre-enrollment videos where you have a 2-minute video that is offered by the HR department and recorded by the HR department to provide things such as what's new, what's highlighted in the benefits, what's changing, things like that. And it can go out through a video link that you can email or text to your employees. It would include employee benefit guides like the ones you see on the screen, an employee benefit guide that can be delivered in an electronic format, and will include all information about their benefits that they can access throughout the year. And if there's benefit administration technology, it can be hosted there. One thing that we've seen that we've been implementing that's very interesting is a Ringless voicemail campaign. So where an employer can, or HR director can record a message that is highlighting the benefits of open enrollment and when that might occur. And it goes out to the employees via a text of dropped call. So the employee gets a missed call from their employer, from their employer's number, and a message is dropped in their voicemail on their cell phone stating, hey, it's such and such person from XYZ company, your HR team, and we're calling to let you know that open enrollment will take place during these time periods, and here's what's new. A real quick and easy message that can be left for the employees. It would include notifications and template flyers like you see up here that announcing. Those can be delivered to the employees' homes, or it could be delivered in their via their emails. And it would include Zoom video conferences with open enrollment meeting. And these are really high-level additional meetings that can be targeting different benefits for employees that'll be offered during open enrollment. But again, through the Zoom video conferences, it gives employees more access to this information. So I'll turn it back over to Tommy. Let's talk about how you educate employees a little bit.
Yeah, so thanks, Ed. So as I mentioned up front, employee education is really, it's critical for the group, but it's in the DNA of our firm. And you know, we believe when employees make consumer-driven decisions around their benefits, it has the potential, and often proves out to decrease costs from an employee perspective because they're in the right product, they're in the right plans, and also on the employer side. And not to mention, in a more global scenario, it really cuts down and eliminates waste in the healthcare system on a whole. So you'll see some of the things. This comes from a report that we did some scouring for, because you'll see that employees are clamoring for education. You know, I think historically, in a lot of cases, as Ed mentioned, certainly in that passive or maybe even reactive format of having employees benefit enrollments, that people just don't know that there's a benefit for them being in these meetings. But but you see how these employees are asking for it. 60% feel it's the employer's responsibility to do the education. Now that's a big deal. That's a big deal that people are expecting their employer to do this education. And is there, you know, there's conversations there. Is there risk and liability if employers don't do the right education, and what does that actually mean for the business? You'll see it says 55% of employees waste as much as $750 a year on poor choices. Now, here's what I can tell you. We do these, and we've been doing these employee education one-on-ones for many, many years. And as you're probably aware of as an HR team or as business owners, that the cost of benefits is going up. And sometimes we've been in meetings where you know, the one-on-one where an employee, this can cost as much as someone's rent or mortgage for a family plan. And there's been times where people get very emotional, and it's a challenging conversation. So we feel being out in front of that and getting the education out there really changes that. And you'll see that last bullet point there. I would say, you know, most people who are not in the employee benefits business would say they probably don't understand the technical deductibles and co-pays and in-network and out-of-network and how that works. So that's where we find education really comes into play. Benefits are personal. I think I said it, but if I didn't, I mean it. They are personal. It's not only are they expensive at times, but they're personal. People have different needs. People have, you know, they see benefits as different strategies, and it should be a personal conversation. And that's where the one-on-one education that we talk about a lot comes in. Everyone has different needs, and not only that, you know, Ed mentions that some people don't show up for the meeting maybe because I'm just going to renew as is, but from year to year, people's own needs change, their familial needs change. They didn't have children, now they do have a child, and there's different things to be aware of, specifically around wellness. Wellness it's become, I think, a catch-all kind of phrase in a lot of ways, and I think it's become more important now more than ever, because with what we're going through, not in this country, but what we're going through globally with COVID and the comorbidities, people realize they need to take some steps to get healthier and do the right thing. So there's even more engagement and questions around that. We're finding that from not only our clients, but prospective clients and partners that we work with want to know more about different wellness strategies. And, you know, I'm sure it'll come up, Ed, but we talk a lot about employer of choice, and that mentality where organizations and businesses want to be an employer of choice. And to do that, wellness is a big part of that. And financial wellness rolls into that as well, because as you probably can imagine, you know, an employee who is not stressed out about financial situations or their retirement or anything like that is going to be a more productive employee. That's just the way it is. So similar to what Ed did in this fashion, we'll look quickly at the passive education strategy. So voluntary meetings, you know, obviously a general Q&A. Carriers will leave the materials again. And then HR provides the education, which, as we talked about, we saw the lady with holding her head up front at the early slides. I mean, we understand HR departments, you know, while benefits enrollment, open enrollment is part of it, it's often not all they're doing. So that would be sort of the passive angle of this. But when you look at it from a more active education, you know, you have obviously enrollment meetings, but we certainly implement benefits guides with all of our clients for that matter. I think the follow-up, and then the one-on-ones. You've heard me talk about it a few times now, but it's, I mean, you know, I learned this from Ed many years ago, is that's what's very important, is having these one-on-one opportunities, because that's when employees open up. That's when employees can tell you the real thing, you know, when they're speaking with a professional like Ed or myself, really around, here's what I have. I see a mental health professional. So, okay, well, then maybe it looks like you should go to this strategy, or I'm having this upcoming surgery. All that stuff comes out, and it really probably, it shouldn't be coming out in conversations that the employer is having. So that's why it's good to engage with your consultant or your broker. Educational materials are made available, as well as what we say there, a decision wizard. So where employees can go in and into a portal and have some AI around that will help them make some educated decisions. But then there's obviously, you're getting the theme here, then there's that proactive personalized education strategy, which is what we think makes the most sense when the opportunity presents itself. We've utilized this strategy, and Ed will be bringing out a case study later on in the session here. And employees can enroll through an app, and they complete a survey, and then after that, they will get assigned to an education specialist who will do a one-on-one virtual meeting. Obviously, these days, everything's virtual, and the employees, the individual that these people will be meeting with is a licensed benefits professional who has several years of experience in benefits consulting. And then they will help the employees make their decisions. Again, similar to the conversations I sort of mentioned there about their needs. and then help them make the decisions and take those enrollments and put them in the benefits admin system. So it sort of takes away that responsibility from the HR team. And then there'll be obviously reports to let the HR folks know, here's who's gotten complete, here's who hasn't finished their session, and here, here's who hasn't even booked their session. And then what's great about some of the strategies that we've used is these benefits counselors are rated in a world where everybody's rated on everything, for whether it be your Uber driver or somebody who delivered your lunch. It's similar in that regard, where these benefits counselors are rated, so to show the feedback that your employees are giving, because that means that'll tell you about the experience they're having. And it goes back, I'll say it again, the employer choice model certainly seems to be another part of that, because wow, I feel like I work for a much bigger company. I have this one-on-one education, all this technology around me. So it often, when we talk about attracting and retaining, which is key in a lot of ways for HR teams to think about, having a better user experience certainly is part and parcel of that. And then employees will have access to the help center throughout the year. So that's, and have access to benefits counselors upon renewal again. So Ed, we're going to go back to you on the leveraging technology.
Sure. So as we all know, technology is evolving every day, and that's certainly the case within the employee benefits world as well. It's been on the forefront for many years, evolving before COVID, but as COVID hit and our workforces were forced to be remote in many cases, it definitely sped up the need for technology, and it definitely outlined any deficiencies that needed to be addressed. So what are employers looking for in technology? And from a benefits perspective, they're looking for benefit administration systems. And benefit administration systems, they might, they're systems that would be available to HR and the employees 24/7, would allow for employees to have mobile apps, which they can use to not only view their benefits, but elect their benefits on an annual basis. It would have document storage, which is important for various different things. Some of these benefit administrations have HRIS or onboarding upgrades, and some of them include those features. And the document storage can be used for anything from storing W-4s or I-9s, or just storing benefit election forms or beneficiary forms, or anything related to the offer of benefits that can be in that employee life cycle. An important part to that for certain benefit administration systems and certain size employers, there could be carrier connectivity, which means that as the information is stored and recorded in the benefits administration systems, that information can flow seamlessly to various carriers, whether it be your health insurance carriers or your ancillary dental vision type carriers. They can flow back and forth and create a very paperless environment where employees can enroll, or HR can enroll employees within the system and transmit that seamlessly to carriers without having spreadsheets and things like that have to be uploaded. And it provides and what you need to look for in these technology partners is make sure you have somebody that provides technology support as well. Often we find that the technology that's provided, it's great and the tools are great, we find that sometimes they often get underutilized because people don't understand how to use them and they have lack of support. So you definitely, as you're vetting that, you definitely want to look at administration partners that would also offer a layer of support, so that if you're as you're going through open enrollment or even throughout the year, you have somebody that you can rely on that's a technology person from that provider. So how are you going to access it? Most of our clients, or many of our clients anyway, access technology through their payroll providers. ADP, Paychex, of course, are two of the larger ones, and they have HRIS or benefit administration upgrades to their systems. Broker partners, so your broker partner might provide you with access to benefit administration software that you can utilize as part of their value-added service. We certainly do that here at the Vanguard agency. You may work with an HR consulting firm, somebody like a Bamboo HR, and they might provide you with a benefit administration upgrade. Or your insurance carriers would provide technology to you. Now, from an insurance carrier perspective, that wouldn't normally be a full benefit administration system, but it would be a way for you to interact with them via that. So that might still leave multiple systems that you have to work with. And of course, you could work with the benefit administration companies as well. And as we had on the previous slide, there's many different benefit administration companies. Some of the ones that we work with are Employee Navigator, bswift, or Ease. So just to break down the different types of strategies as this has evolved, of course, a passive approach to technology is really just very reliant on the carriers and what they provide. Employees are directed to carrier websites for provider searches. They may access those sites for claims utilization, updates, or explanation of benefits. And in that regard, they're really the carriers are processing these transactions on their websites for HR and the employees. A more active approach to that might be the HR or the broker has a system where they can process additions, terminations, transactions, and open enrollment changes on the carrier's websites. The employees would have access to the payroll and the carrier's portal, or you might even start to see some benefit administration systems that are starting to become more evident in these situations. And employees utilize carrier mobile apps. Mobile apps are becoming much more evident with carriers nowadays. The ability to access telehealth, even remote or mental health or dental health has become more evident. So carriers are definitely encouraging employees and employers to use their services that they provide. But in no means would that be a full benefit administration system that you could use for onboarding and payroll integrations. Proactive use of technology, and I think we've covered some of the ways that we would interact with employees, and certainly technology is a big part of that. So you would have, in this type of approach, you would have an education specialist that would actually do the enrollments for the HR department with the employer. So as they meet with the employees, they would have access to the benefit administration system, and they would actually record the benefit elections for all the benefits that an employee has chose. HR and employees are going to have access to that administration portal 24/7 throughout the year. So anything that's recorded will be viewable. Documents will be viewable along the way. You can have videos of the open enrollment sessions that are recorded in there, and any information that's needed for an employee to have a better understanding of their benefits can be stored in these situations. And of course, in a proactive use of technology, there's more than likely going to be some sort of EDI or API feeds, which are electronic transfers of information from that system. And this may even be available to integrate with your payroll company, depending who that is. So you want to check with that, because a real proactive use of technology would include an EDI feed and an integration with payroll. So as the information is entered into the system one time, whether that be during open enrollment, during a new hire cycle, and the onboarding process, that information flows through the system as employees make benefit elections. It is electronically transferred to carriers directly, and then the deductions that are associated with those flow back to payroll. So really, we're in a paperless environment and a very efficient way to process that employee transaction. So let's talk about budgeting for technology just a moment, because a lot of what we've heard over the years is it's very expensive to infuse some of these ideas. The common payroll company, if they're providing technology benefit administration, it could cost somewhere between $5 and $8 per employee per month to add those services to your basic payroll functions. You may find that that's the most efficient way to integrate with your benefit administration and your payroll. But again, every payroll company is different. Some of them offer varying levels of technology support. We have heard from some of our employers that the technology support on the Ben admin side was not as sufficient for them, and therefore they not being, in that situation. I think we had that slide before that showed the HR director that was wearing a lot of hats. Not every HR director is going to be an IT or a technology specialist. So if they're put in that situation and you've now depended on the benefit administration technology to handle all this for you, and you have no support, that can be a challenge. So something you want to look for as you're working with benefit payroll companies direct is what is their layer of support that they offer, and does this fit into my budget? You can work directly with benefit administration platforms like we mentioned, Employee Navigator, Ease. Most of these would fall somewhere in the $3 to $5 per employee per month range for the technology platform. They would just be benefit administration technology platforms. They would have, in a lot of cases, onboarding features that would support HR and the new hire and open enrollment process. And so they have in some cases HRIS upgrades as well, some of them actually included. So you'd want to be on the lookout for what your needs are as you're evaluating those platforms. But you can certainly work with them, and they can actually integrate with your payroll companies and your HRIS platforms if you're using a payroll company for both of those services. So it's a very good way to evaluate it. But you'd want to look at whether it's better for the organization, or the clients we've talked to have looked at whether it makes more sense, and support is a big feature with that, to work with your payroll company for everything, or work with them on what they're really good at, which is payroll and perhaps HRIS, and integrate that with an outside benefit administration platform. There are technology credits that are available depending on the size of your organization, depending on the products that you offer. There are technology credits, and carriers will work with you, and it definitely should be addressed with providing technology credits for you that you can use to offset the costs of some of the things that we've already talked about. Carriers, benefit providers these days are definitely interested in working with you in a streamlined capacity. They definitely find it as a resource to them. It's a source of efficiency for them, and it reduces cost on their end as well. It also cuts down mistakes that could be more, that could play more involved in work for their employees that are working with you and their account managers. So it's definitely a much more efficient way to go about it. The other thing is ancillary and voluntary providers. If you're not working with, the Aflacs, the Colonials of the world already, there may be benefit technology credits involved in working with them. So these are products that employees are definitely looking for, but not only are they products that they're looking for, they're products that support their financial wellness. So there are products within some of these voluntary carriers that will allow you to use those to offset deductibles and co-insurance associated with your benefit plans, and have upgrades to other types of services that might be more customized towards critical illness and support you in a time of need if you're facing a serious health condition. And those types of benefits are becoming more and more popular. And along with that, those carriers are looking to work with you from a technology standpoint as well. And there could be monies available through them to offer offsets to your costs. So let's just define what an active open enrollment might look like these days. And this is the way we try to do business at the very least with all of our employer groups and nonprofits. An active open enrollment really gives access to benefit administration system, open enrollment, and onboarding technology to all our clients. As I mentioned before, one of the things that we do is we provide benefit administration. We make it available, I should say, for employers that we've provided as a value-added service. Open enrollment communications are provided in that type of enrollment as well, which would be in benefit guides, meeting announcements. What's new, I think, is really important to provide in this type of an enrollment strategy, letting them know what's different about their benefits, hosting general open enrollment meetings on Zoom, various types, various times, and storing those recorded in the Ben admin system for future viewing. And of course, the critical component to this is individual education specialists that employees have access to and could sign up through a survey link to get access to a counselor that would help them determine what benefits are most suitable for them. As Tommy pointed out very well before, benefits are personal. There are many times where we have been involved in employee benefit meetings where employees have gotten emotional. There are various different things that can come up in that cycle. Sitting with employees that might have they're looking for fertility benefits within their benefits, which is a common request and a common thing that's very difficult and emotional for employee, or mental health challenges. More and more these days, that is the biggest request we're getting, especially post-COVID days, is EAP programs and things that employees might need to know about and wouldn't even know they exist. We find sometimes that employees don't even know that these EAP programs might be embedded in their core benefits if they're not educated on that. So it's very important. Can't stress that enough, how the importance of the one-on-one and offering that. Employee elections recorded by either the employee themselves in this type of enrollment by accessing a benefit administration system, or the HR can do it as well. And of course, it's important in this type of enrollment, the open enrollment period would be defined, and there'd be an opening and a closing to that, so that employees know they're not waiting. They know there's some urgency about when their benefit election should be transmitted. And then, of course, there's access that can be given to them for support throughout the year in an active open enrollment. The proactive open enrollment is really next level. As I said, it's the future, what we believe is the future of benefits enrollment and technology and education. Proactive enrollment is giving access to benefit administration and requiring benefit administration and onboarding technology, defining a case management for the entire open enrollment process with a timeline of when exactly things are going to occur from a communication standpoint, from an education standpoint, and the defined time period that an open enrollment would last. Open enrollment communications, we talked about some of these already, but they would include the benefit guides and the meeting announcements, what's new. The pre-enrollment video announcements have been very impactful. Posters, flyers, the Ringless voicemail we talked about, which employees love, and text and email campaigns that really is just touching the employee from many angles to make sure that they're aware of their benefits. They still would include the remote access general open enrollment meetings. I don't think those would go away. When we get out of our COVID world right now, those perhaps could be important in person again. But that general high-level overview of benefits that employees can get a taste of what they should be considering before they have a one-on-one session. And then, of course, the entire process is managed by every employee having access to a counselor, and the counselors are directly engaging those employees. The employer is now in a situation where they see the value in this education and are encouraging that employees can only make their benefit elections through these one-on-one sessions with counselors. During that time period, there's daily reporting to the HR and the employer of the enrollments, the scheduled meetings, and the employee testimonials, which the employees are actually letting you know how their experience with the counselors they met with, which is vital to this. And of course, the technology provided would have access to benefit administration system with integration to payroll, so that we can do things like engage with the employers during open enrollment. And for new hires, those counselors can be notified to reach out to your new hire. So again, it's a benefit counselor, an education specialist that is meeting with an employee, not the HR team. And of course, the immediate access to account management, dedicated account management team would be part of a proactive strategy. Tommy, you want to talk about the impact on HR?
Yeah, thanks, Ed. So, we've given you a lot of data, we've kind of sketched this out for you, but how does it really impact your team as an HR team? Well, that active approach from the education, from the enrollment, that all of that is really going to take the burden away from the HR team, and certainly by implementing these strategies, make it more efficient, make it more effective, make it seamless. The employer choice model, something we talk about all the time. Employees feel they're going to be more supported. They'll feel more supported. They'll be more engaged. This is when we talk about the cost of attracting and retaining talent, how challenging it is. Well, you want to keep people as best you can, and strategies like this make people feel part of the team are super important. Employees actually now manage the process. They're in the driver's seat on their benefits versus being reactive. So yes, it's a good position for the company, but it's great for the employees as well. This strategy takes away that burden. It really does. We remember our friend with our head in the hand a bunch of slides back. It takes that away, where now this can be, as it should be in from our perspective, it should be a good process. It should be something exciting for people. It's a change. It's something new. It's new opportunities. HR really becomes a project manager, kind of managing from above and not being so much in the weeds, and then can delegate a lot of those tasks, can delegate them to their consultants and brokers, can, as Ed talked about, can delegate certain pieces to payroll and things like that. Reporting abilities just increases, which goes to efficiency. The education is managed by these benefits counselors again, so it leaves the education to the specialists. These are trained benefits counselors, and no slight on HR professionals, they just have a lot to do. These benefits folks they are specialists, and that's why they can answer the questions directly, as well as it's HIPAA compliant. You don't have to worry about that. These are licensed professionals that are allowed to be having these conversations with the employees. And then the management, the ongoing employee management, the benefits counselors. So Ed's going to walk you through a case study in a sec here, but basically, as I mentioned, those three different phases, new hires are now benefits eligible, qualified life event. These things happen throughout the year. When you outsource to these benefits counselors type of scenarios, it creates a situation where those benefits counselors will be back to manage those different processes throughout the year. Technology driven transactions, that's kind of an obvious one, but it all goes through the systems and the payroll integration, as Ed talked about a couple moments ago. So at this point, Ed's going to walk us through a case study, a real life case study of a client of ours, and how some of these strategies really truly benefited.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. So as Tommy said, what we're seeing right now is a case study of an actual client that we implemented a proactive open enrollment strategy with. And this client, with our partner EP6, our enrollment partner, this client was a growing mortgage bank. They had grown from 500 employees in 2020, and in 2019 they actually were a lot smaller than that, around 150 employees. So they've been experiencing major expansion throughout the United States, and they grew from 500 employees to 1,500 employees in 2020. Employees working remotely in 30 states. So not only did they expand their footprint into 30 states throughout the country, but now they did this in the middle of a pandemic where all these employees, or most of them anyway, were converted to remote. So definitely a challenge, as the year before, all of their enrollments were completed by paper. So to complete paper enrollments in a time like this would have been very challenging. They were also expanding their benefits. They're expanding. They were in a very competitive industry. They were recruiting brokers from other firms that had a more robust benefit package, and they needed to compete in that industry and benchmark against their peers to make sure that they were competitive in what they were offering. They had a carrier change. They were changing a complete overhaul of their medical, dental, vision, including 5 different medical options that they were offering to the employees in different markets. So employees in different markets were coming from different types of carriers, which made that challenging. And they were also introducing new ancillary benefits, including short-term disability, long-term disability, voluntary life, things that they've never offered before. And then they also brought in new worksite benefits, including critical illness, accident, hospital, all to enhance their medical benefits offering. And the reason that this was occurring is not only were they experiencing rapid growth and rapid changes to their benefits, their HR team was rapidly changing, and their culture of their organization was changing. So their sole direction was to make this organization an employer of choice, and offering the benefits that they wanted to offer had to be in lockstep with that. So That's what we were faced with. Here's what we were able to help them with. So we introduced and deployed a benefit administration. In this case, it was Employee Navigator, and there was technology supported through a technology firm that did all the build out for all the plans in their system, added the eligibility rules and the contributions, all built out for them in their system. We also deployed 20 benefit counselors to assist with education. And in this case, we were able to reach 92% of the employees. So out of the 1,500, 92% of the employees actually met with a benefits counselor to either enroll or waive their benefits. So in this case, they now had real data that they could use for waiver elections, which was important to their organization, and knowing where employees were getting their coverage from, and so they can customize their benefits offering in the future. And of course, the elections were done, not one of them was done by the HR department, and there was no paper involved. It was all done by the benefit counselors. Some of the things that we see when one-on-one education, as we've discussed, is deployed, is that employees start to make more consumer-directed choices. This drives down costs for employees and the employer long-term. And one example I'll give is the use of HDHP plans or HSAs. You know, commonly we see that in more of the benefit offerings that that are being designed, that HDHP or an HSA plan is always one of the choices. However, typically on a normal enrollment, we'll see somewhere in the 5 to 10% range of people that actually took those benefits. And it's clear that the reason why people don't take them is because they don't understand how they work. They are complex. They are different than regular medical plans. And so they don't choose those plans because of that. In this case, out of it, with everyone being educated, 92% being educated, 33% of them took HSA plans or high deductible plans because they were suitable for them, which is driving down costs for them and the employer. So it's really important part of what we're seeing. And then also we saw that almost 1,900 voluntary type products were taken by employees. That included almost 50% participation in either a life, short-term disability, or long-term disability, which is way higher than the norm. And just, again, supports the financial wellness of an employee. And we also created a custom, yes.
We're just right about almost at the top of the hour, so I just want to let you know that. I don't know if you have the time there.
Yep, I see it, and we're wrapping up. So custom communications, we talked about some of that. We deployed virtual apps that allowed employees to access and counselor schedules and schedule meetings at their own time. And of course, the daily reporting was a big thing for the HR department, showing the employees' ratings, showing the employees the employees' engagements with the counselors, and also showing a barometer of who was enrolled, who was left to be enrolled. This all became an outsourced model of enrollment for the HR team, and the HR team became more of a project manager rather than being involved in the day-to-day tasks. So I'll wrap up there. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks, Tom and Ed, for taking us through all that today. That was very informative, and I'm sure the nonprofits got a lot out of it. I would ask that you both put your information in the chat in case anyone needs to reach you directly, if you wouldn't mind. I'm Darren Port, the CEO of Powered by Professionals, and we're a professional fundraising and event management firm located in New York City. We have clients throughout the US. We work exclusively with nonprofits and helping them with planning their virtual, hybrid, and live fundraising events. My information is also in the chat should you need it. And thank you again for attending today. I wanted to make sure that we'll be sending a survey to everyone. So if we ask everyone to please fill out the survey, as it allows us to know a little more how everyone's needs are and what you enjoyed from today's webinar. We have 2 more events coming up this month. On April 22nd at noon, we have a webinar, Are You in the Dark About Your Financial Situation? Featuring guest speakers Genevieve Sapp and Nicole Frisina from Your Part-Time Controller. And on April 26th at 4:30 to 6 p.m., we'll be having a nonprofit meet and greet where you will have the chance to network with our fellow nonprofit partners and potential partners for your organization. To register for both of these webinars, visit our website. Again, please visit nonprofitresourcehub.org for more information to become a nonprofit partner. If you have any questions, please reach out to Danette O'Connell. That's d.o'connell@nonprofitresourcehub.org. Thank you and stay well. Have a great afternoon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.